You're on Strat News Global, and I'm Nitin Gokhale. Strategic Insight is a program that Strat News Global does in association with USI, India's oldest military think tank. Today, we are going to discuss the possibility of the two-front war or a two-front scenario against India. For years, strategic planners, military leadership has been discussing the possibility of a nexus between China and Pakistan. Is that for real now? That's what we'll discuss in this episode of Strategic Insight. So to discuss this subject, I am joined by two distinguished military officers who in their career have dealt with this subject extensively. To my left, Major General B.K. Sharma, the Director of USI, a familiar face on Strategic Insight, as you have already seen him in a couple of programs earlier. And to my right, Lieutenant General G.S. Katoch, who is the head of the editorial team of USI and also the council member of the think tank. Welcome both of you, and let me turn to you, General Sharma. What are the key factors in the possible nexus of a two-front scenario against India by China and Pakistan? If you can elucidate a little bit.
See, we have to first analyze the depth of this relationship. And I would like to put it in a strategic context that right from the beginning, Pakistan has been a linchpin in China's South Asia strategy. Even though Pakistan was flirting with the United States of America, be it CENTO, SATO, but their relationship with Pakistan remained even on an even keel. Be it that Karakoram Highway, subsequently you had the Comprehensive Nuclear Agreement in 1986. Then in 2003 they signed the Free Trade Agreement. 2005 they had that Friendship Treaty, and 2015 you had the mother of all the agreements, that is CPAC, and you had 51 more agreements signed. So how do they interpret this relationship? For Pakistan, China is a high payoff security guarantor. And for China, Pakistan is a low cost secondary deterrence against India.
That's right.
And that is how that relationship has evolved, and now they have a very romanticized way of calling it, higher than mountain, deeper
than Indian Ocean, sweeter than honey.
Tougher than steel, and a new epithet has come up, and that is called Bata. That is the iron brother.
Yes.
And this has got further cemented post CPAC, and subsequently with the abrogation of Article 370, when the geographical boundaries were redrawn by India and we started reclaiming Aksai Chin and subsequently, certain statements about Gilgit-Baltistan. With that, China de facto emerged as a third party. And therefore, even though earlier there were certain indirect dimensions to this, but now the military dimension has become far more prominent. And in that, I would like to flag four critical elements of this strategic relationship. One is the very strategic, in which there are two very important factors. One is the Karakoram Highway, which is called the jugular vein of the CPAC, and it has its own security implications in terms of build-up, joint deployment, faster supply of military hardware, even deploying certain missiles in about 100 odd tunnels. And second is Gwadar Port. Now, Gwadar is a strategic outpost where the continental prong and the maritime prong of the Belt and Road Initiative, they converge. And Chinese are in the process of dredging the port. Presently, its depth is about 12.5 meters. They may increase it to about 17.5 meters for the container trade. And subsequently, if they increase the depth of water to 24.5 meters, then even it can be made suitable for submarine operations, stealth operations. And then there are economic dimensions, I will not get into that. And the politico-diplomatic dimension where Pakistan woes by one China policy and China comes to their rescue, be it, UN Resolution 1267 at the FATF, or very recently they made 3 feeble attempts, on the Kashmir issue
to be
side
introduced
with
in the
Pakistan.
UN. Yeah.
But the recent developments that have unfolded at the line of actual control and the concurrent deployment of Pakistan's 2 odd divisions. Now this, earlier, even if there was an iota of doubt whether this 2-front nexus will manifest in a military kind of a scenario, I think that issue is settled. And today, India is seriously beset with a 2-front scenario, given our relations with Pakistan and China. So I think it's become a reality, and we'll have to find ways and means to deal with it in a very effective manner.
Sure. I'll come back to that question. But General Katoch, Pakistan, by comparison, bilaterally with India, is a weaker nation state by military means or by its economic state of affairs that it is going through.
Yeah.
And yet, it has an important role to play against India because of the China factor, as General Sharma mentioned. What are the military aspects of Pakistan's strategy against India with China or in collaboration with China that you are looking at?
Okay. There's a very old dictum, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, this nexus between China and Pakistan, the very basis of that is that, and that is but natural. That is but natural. Otherwise, of course, if you look at the systems of the government, an Islamic state and a communist state, logically they should not be getting together. And maybe in the hearts of the people of Pakistan, they may feel some differences with the Chinese. But because of the enemy of my enemy factor, they have got together. And this particular, one should not be doing bean counting.
Right.
But it is okay to do some bean counting to get a little idea. That say Pakistan has got a total of about 9 cores, right? And we got a total of 14 cores, out of which about 4 you can say are not aligned to the to the western border.
Right.
So Pakistan, just if it is if it is matched alone with India, and I am talking cores in terms of army. If you bring in the navy, you bring in the air force, we have superior by a degree. To offset that superiority, you always need somebody else, a stronger person to help you. It could be it may not be a superpower, but a strong enough person to help you. So, if the Chinese are able to even come in physically, which they may not, for a variety of reasons, but even their moral support, material support is enough to enable them to manage on their own. And of course, we are not talking of the nuclear factor because, once you get into the nuclear domain, that's a particular weapon which helps a weaker country to always be able to stand up. But then one doesn't jump to nuclear straight away. So, in a conventional sphere, there is a requirement to have alliances, there is a requirement to have pacts, and the subtle difference between pacts and alliances, that in a pact you are giving in writing that I'll come to your aid.
Right.
Now, between the Chinese and the Pakistanis, there is not really a pact, there is an agreement of peace, friendship, cooperation,
Sure.
but in the small print, the print in that
Fine
says,
print is like
it says that in case you will not, we will come to each other's help, we will consult each other if
Right.
something happens, and you will not sign a similar agreement with somebody else. So, willy-nilly, it means that we will come to your,
to your
aid,
aid.
materially, if not physically.
Right.
And physically would happen only under certain circumstances.
Right. So, General Sharma, in fact, you spoke about various dimensions of this nexus. The Indian strategic planners, military leadership has been speaking about this possibility for almost, if not 30 years, 20 years at least. And of course, we saw in the 65 war, there was some movement, China made some threatening noises, 71 Some say that the December timeline was chosen so that the passes are closed and the Chinese cannot intervene. All those factors were there. But the Chinese never overtly actually backed Pakistan or came to their aid, as General Katoj was saying. They never came physically. But the scenario has completely changed now. So, what should be the strategy of the Indian establishment, security establishment, to deal with this reality now, the way we are facing the threat from both sides? What should the Indian planners do?
See, first and foremost thing is, we have to settle this question in our own minds, and that too between the political authority and the military authority, what our threat perception is. Before this threat manifested in this particular manner, there were people in the establishment who said, well, we will never have a two-front scenario and we'll never have a war with China and things like that. But now that has become a reality. And therefore, we need to analyze the entire spectrum of conflict up the escalation ladder. And at the lower end, what we have is the non-contact, non-kinetic domain. Then we have non-contact kinetic domain. Then you come into the conventional domain, which could be sectoral or which could even be one front, two fronts, 2.5 fronts. And then after that, you have a nuclear environment because all three are nuclear powers. So it's extremely important for Indian military planners and strategic security planners to look at the whole range of scenarios. What is the probability of each scenario? Cost, benefit, risk, outcomes, and how should we have a responsive mechanism to deal with these scenarios. But getting on to the present context, I feel there could be 4 possible scenarios that we have to deal with in the near term. First is that given Pakistan's internal dynamics, that its economy is fragile, politically there is a lot of turmoil, the sword of FATF is hanging, its diplomatic relations with the Arab world has actually become a very big problem and has not been able to find this new alliance with Iran and Turkey. So it's on the horns of dilemma.
Right.
And military capability doesn't exist to the level that they should have. So one option for them is that permit China to do the heavy weightlifting and you keep adjusting the temperatures by resorting to rhetoric and certain infiltration, the routine traditional infiltration across the line of control.
Right.
The second scenario could be that you up the ante. You look that this is an opportune moment for me and you trigger or you engineer some kind of Pulwama, Uri kind of sensational strikes and put Indian establishment on the horns of dilemma. If you respond, then you say India has false flagged these operations and it is India which is the abettor of aggression, and India, the onus of opening the second front would lie on India, and then they would respond, and Chinese are always there. The third scenario that I visualize and we have to look at seriously, that at the moment we are in some kind of a stalemate with Chinese. But should India decide that if Chinese are not restoring the status quo ante and we take certain options, quid pro quo options, and Chinese come under pressure because Chinese know they will not be able to prevail upon him given our mirror deployment, then they can wink at Pakistan and Pakistan can start doing certain nibbling actions either in northern Ladakh or somewhere in Kashmir Valley, to sort of distract us and to divert our attentions. And should the things get escalated now, the Chinese don't back out, we don't back out, and the conflict opens to other sectors also.
Right.
Then probably Pakistan may be tempted by China because Chinese will not accept a defeat. Even a status quo is a very serious embarrassment.
That's right.
In that case, we should be looking at the worst case scenario, wherein China, at least in Kashmir Valley, opens another front and we have to deal with the Chinese in Ladakh, and that is a worst case scenario. So for all these scenarios, our planning and responses will have to be worked out, and not to deal with in a knee jerk, in a reactive,
Or in a ad hoc manner.
ad hoc in a reactive
Right.
manner.
No, I get your thing completely, because that's something now it's become a reality. This nightmare scenario, if you want to call that, if you are a pessimist, you will look at it as a nightmare scenario. But General Katoch, you were also in PP,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. You were
Yes.
DG Perspective Planning. Clearly this threat has not come or manifested itself overnight. This has been there at the back of our mind. In fact, a former chief had spoken about the two-front scenario under a nuclear overhang, if you remember, almost 13, 14 years ago. So not that the Indian military establishment is not prepared for it. But how do you see if this scenario comes through, where earlier people used to say, if Pakistan opens a front, China will not like to intervene militarily. But today that possibility has been negated, most probably. So there, what should we be doing? What should India be doing? I mean, I know General Sharma has spoken about a couple of things, but what is your view? How do you send signals to Pakistan that it's not in your interest to open up another front? What do you think?
Well, we've been talking about the two-front war for fairly long now, and sometimes we start talking of we do talk about 2.5 front also. But let's forget the half front, because half front is, the danger that you feel may come to your rare areas. And I think we've got very capable Central Armed Police Forces. If we leave it to them and use our military for a two-front scenario, in my personal view, we are strong enough to be able to, cope with that. But when you talk of a two-front scenario, it does not mean that you will equally address both the fronts. Right. So you have to, depending on where who has initiated the war, you have to deal with one party first and then tackle the other.
Right.
And say a hypothetical situation that in case the war is with China, and it is more likely in such a situation, it is more likely that Pakistan may try to do either, like we said, sectorally or maybe all along, military action, then we have to decide, and I'm sure there are plans for that, that whom do we hold and whom do we
attack?
Whom do we attack? So there would be plans for that. Now that all depends. I mean, it's very difficult to legislate what should be done. But let me tell you one thing, that say we do have the capability to hold the Western Front very, very easily and use forces from the Western Front on the Northern Front.
The dual task forces that are there.
You see, all the codes that we have, the holding codes that we have on we call them the pivot codes sometimes, but basically
holding codes.
Holding codes.
Right.
The holding codes we have there, and I commanded one of them.
Yes.
The holding codes that we have there are more than sufficient to hold any attack. And suppose we have no designs to go inside Pakistan, they can hold any number of attack, and we have still sufficient forces which can be diverted to the
other front.
And on the other front, the requirement is more of infantry and artillery.
Sure.
Right. So it is not armor.
Mountains follow up.
Yeah. So we have got more than adequate armor on the Western Front, which is more than adequate to hold any threat from there. So we can, tackle one and then meet the other. And obviously, this is not a situation that one would like to, it's a avoidable situation.
Yes.
So therefore,
it's a worst case scenario.
It's a worst case scenario.
But that's
it is avoidable.
Good to know that there are enough reserves and plans.
And here I'm talking only in terms of the
army.
Army, right?
Exactly.
And so is the Air Force and Navy. We have great preponderance.
Absolutely. Against Pakistan, definitely. And China, of course, is far away from the Indian Ocean.
We don't really expect that they will come in strength. And should that happen, some amount of alliances, whether implied or actual, are required. After all, in 71 war, we did go in for
with the Russians, with the Soviet Union that time, but certainly.
And in such things, even like 3 B-2 bombers, coming to Diego Garcia just 3 days back is
It's a signal.
It is a signal.
It's a
It is
signal,
signal.
yeah. But that's what brings me to my a critical question about India's possible friends, or who will come to India's support if not rescue. India doesn't need anybody to rescue at the current scenario, but who will support? Will the US and Japan, for instance, come to India's support if such a scenario happens, if the balloon goes up?
See, today's situation, geopolitical situation, is very different than what it was a decade ago. Today, China has antagonized everybody. And look at the state of relations between US and China. They're virtually in a war, whether it's technological, trade war, and the kind of face-offs which are taking place in South China Sea in the Western Pacific. And same is the state with Japanese. And during Doklam crisis, Japanese came on board and they supported our stand there. Likewise, both the countries are on board and they've said that it is a China which is an aggressor. This, coupled with certain other statements which the US has made, and the 3 aircraft carrier which they mobilized in South China Sea, and they did joint exercises, with the Indian Navy.
The PASEX that
This
they
was
did,
part
yes.
of signaling.
Sure.
And now these B-2 bombers which have come there, if you look at the statement made by the spokesperson of the Pentagon,
Right.
it was very clear signaling. We do not want anybody to get physically embroiled in fighting on the Indian side.
Right.
As long as they can keep China pinned down and they are not able to shift those out of 4 theater commands which are on the other frontiers and divert their air force resources and other things onto Indian border, then I think we would have carried the day. If we have to only deal with the Western Theater Command, which is in
Tibet,
Chengdu, then we are good enough as long as they are not able to muster other resources. So this way, to strategically imbalance China and keep them fixated on the other front, both Japan and US can play a role, besides giving us the high-end force multiplier and other
Weapons
military
platforms,
arsenal which we very badly require. This is the level of this
Support
thing.
that
And
comes
likewise, I feel that if US tells Pakistanis that if you open the second front, then I will
Switch off
make
the
a
tap.
specimen out of you. You know what? Earlier that we will bomb you to the
Stone
Stone
Age.
Age. So that kind of a statement, if US issues, I don't think Pakistan will have any guts to open the second.
That's right. Richard Armitage had said that
Yeah, yeah.
we will bomb you to the Stone Age.
Stone Age.
But General Katoch, one final question to you before I close this program. The Chinese, of course, are supporting Pakistan in many different ways. They are the most preferred military suppliers, although Pakistanis have a lot of American hardware too. But given the fact that Pakistan is so vulnerable on many other fronts, economic, terrorism, and like General Sharma said that US can just switch off the tap or up the ante in the UN about FATF. Do you think that kind of non-military measures are also required against both China and Pakistan from Indian and Indian friends?
Well, definitely non-military measures are required. And, going back to the point that you just discussed earlier about Japan, Australia and all, that the importance for the Quad is the promise that it holds. Right? And, the 4 countries of the Quad are they are 4 democracies, and each of them individually has got the economic and the military strength to say no to China. So that is important. So that promise is important. It is up to China whether it wants this grouping to become more solid, right? So it also has to calibrate its actions. If it, just goes without thinking, he will ensure that this alliance becomes more solid.
It gets cemented. Yeah.
Yes. And now the second part that you asked, yes, it needs Pakistan indulges in hybrid war against India.
Right.
Hybrid war means every mean is used. So it does need a whole of country approach.
Right.
And I think earlier we were talking about the country being the people of the country being involved in the defense of the country. In a situation of a hybrid sort of war where Pakistan tries to undermine us by sowing dissension by other such means, if the people are aware about it, they can take part in it.
countermeasures. Yeah.
And of course, we know that as far as the cyber world is concerned, Pakistan is it's very limited capability, but China has capability. It has got a institutionalized sort of capability, and that is where in a sort of nexus, by not overtly coming to the aid of Pakistan, China can indulge in all these means. When we talk of collusive support, collusive is a little derogatory word. It means that you are trying to, in a very mean sort of way, you're doing something. So it can do that mean sort of thing. But these things don't really have a great effect. I believe that deterrence is effective on a country only if its people are scared.
Right.
Right. And cyber attacks and such things might disrupt your economy, might disrupt the communications,
Sure.
military or civilian, but it doesn't scare the people.
Right.
It doesn't scare the
It can
people.
be overcome.
Yeah, it can be overcome. It can be
yeah.
overcome. So any help from anybody to counter that is obviously very
Great. So the sum total of our discussion actually tells me that India need not be unduly alarmed about the two-front scenario. It's a nightmare scenario, the worst case scenario, but given the kind of capability we have developed over the years, and maybe that needs to be strengthened from time to time, and create alliances with the like-minded democracies that we are already doing in form of Quad or even in the neighborhood, I think there should be no undue alarm. Of course, we have to be on our guard, is what comes out of this discussion. Once again, excellent insight by the two experts from USI. So therefore, do keep watching Strategic Insight. We will have a couple of more episodes coming up, and of course continue with this whenever such requirements come up. So until the next time, do remember to keep watching us, like us on our social media platforms, keep sending feedback and comments, and we will take them up as and when these issues manifest themselves for such discussions. Until the next time.